My name is Luke Mate. I'm the director responsible for systems development and support at Smart Zambia, also known as the Electronic Government Division of the Government of the Republic of Zambia. So the Electronic Government Division of the in Zambia sits under the Office of the President, and it is basically primarily charged with the responsibility of implementing eGov for the country. Zambia's, in terms of our DPI implementation, we are just, I would say we are just getting started. We have quite a lot in terms of innovations, but then they were being done, I think, just like many other countries, they were more being done in isolation or purely being focused on on delivering basically maybe the one objective or one target. So they were basically locked into one use case of some kind. But then when we started using the DPI approach, this year, I would say it's actually some form of a coincidence that while we're trying to learn how DPI can actually be implemented in our country, it so happened that the country was hit with a severe drought. And at the beginning of the year, in February of this year, 2024, the President of the Republic of Zambia, His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema, declared a national disaster due to drought, as over 84 districts had poor rainfall, to the effect that the people in those areas needed to be helped or subsidized, being given some food aid or some relief to help them live through the year. And so making DPI really work at providing solutions that are answering to a real problem, as opposed to just crafting use cases which may just be maybe to prove a concept or to prove a theory. So we went ahead to work on such an implementation. And so we have a solution which I'm proud to say has just passed the user acceptance test. And within the month of September, we should be able to roll it out to the general public, where those households which would have been identified to qualify for receiving some aid from government will then use this solution. May I also be quick to mention that there have been other social protection solutions in our space. However, these were not really being crafted with that appreciation of a DPI approach, where we want it to be scalable as well as to share it with other users or with other different rails of the of DPI, such as managing the identity as well as managing the payments that will be done to ensure that the rightful households are actually paid. So that is one of the use cases that we are working with as a country in terms of DPI. And then the second use case is in the health sector. And we are always very happy when we talk about this, because the health sector is one of those sectors that is highly regulated or controlled. However, our health sector is also very much advanced in terms of digitization, to the extent that they just for this year we have had a very ambitious project working with some of our private partners to digitize the electronic health records for the various hospitals that are run by the government. And there's a target of we have over 3,000 health facilities in the country. And to date, we have working with Smart Zambia and trying to link an identity solution, an eKYC solution, to help identify patients as well as onboarding of the patients onto the electronic health records. We have set up an eKYC platform so that the health system will be purely used to manage the health information records, while the identity data, which has also the capability of biometrics, will be stored away from the health information system, but will simply be integrated to facilitate positive identification of the patients as and when they go to the health facilities. And so far, the solution, this new electronic health management system, which is called SmartCare Pro, which is an improved version of what was there, which was called SmartCare Legacy, has already been rolled out in 400 health facilities. And we are right now going into the second phase where an additional 600 health facilities will also be included. And so when all these institutions are using this solution, we are hopeful then that this use case will drive the numbers in terms of the records that will be required to be validated on the eKYC platform, and thereby increasing the enrollment processes on it. So we started this journey, I would say it was way back as 2008 through the Ministry of Home Affairs and Internal Security under a project which is called the INRIS project, which is the Integrated National Identity Registration System. So that project has been running from 2008 to, I'd say, up to now. It's still ongoing. Okay. While the project has been going, there's been a number of iterations in terms of the implementation of how this should actually be done. And in way, some of the key milestones was that I think when the project started in 2015, 2016, there was a change in terms of the technology. When it comes to implementing of identity, it is also key. The timing is very key, because when you have elections in a year, you find that becomes an emotive area in terms of trust issues. People may want to think the ID process is maybe trying to be used to sway the election results and stuff like that. So it's quite a sensitive. But after the 2021 elections, the government came back, and the new government then decided to say we want to push this agenda forward, and gave again some support to the project to say let's move this project a bit faster. Target population of 11 million citizens, only 1.5 million have been successfully enrolled onto the digital identity platform. A quick thing to note here is that also that in Zambia, the identity is only given when one attains the age of 16. It's not like the other places where at the time of birth you have one number throughout the year, throughout your entire lifetime. With us, it is only done, you will only get a national registration card when one attains the age of 16. So that is why, while the entire population of the country is about 19.6, almost 20 million, only about 11 million of that population are eligible to have a national registration card. And today, our card is a paper-based card, which is not digitized. So that the INRIS project's desire was to digitize the identity card, so that people can have digital cards which are machine readable, as well as have biometrics capabilities. It is this journey that we are trying to accelerate. So while that project is still ongoing, unfortunately, due to the drought which I mentioned earlier on, resources have been very restricted in terms of what resources can be pushed to a digital project. And so way back in March or so, there was an announcement where the mass enrollment of on the INRIS project was halted, in that there are no resources to support this, to allow people to go around the country doing mass enrollment. Instead, people can enroll as and when they feel like, or the need comes. So this has slowed down that aspect. However, as a country, there's a lot of digitization which has happened, and the government of Zambia has been moving towards digitization of the various government services, which then requires the need for us to have positive identification of the beneficiaries or of the customers that are getting these services. And the non-availability of a digital ID then becomes a challenge in terms of how do you properly identify people in the digital ecosystem. That is how we started on the eKYC. And in terms of our implementation, we were fortunate enough that we have some partners who have been able to offer some technical support as well as advice, and such as the DPI team, to give us a solution that will be able to work at the same time, which is very cost effective. And when it came to the identity aspect, we settled for the MOSIP platform, and we've been working with a team from MOSIP. We started our engagements with them way back in February, and we pushed with them that we try to have this solution work be rolled out as quickly as possible. So because we're building it at a time of crisis, so our implementation has been one which is very rapid, in that they would provide us support by maybe just providing us guidance in terms of what we need to implement. But we've been using our local resources. Some of our own government staff have been oriented or trained to handle these deployments. And in June, we decided we got some resources. Thanks to the support from Core Develop, we got some bit of resources in there, which allowed us to have a boot camp where we brought in our team to sit down and just focus on building this solution. That is how we're able to build both in terms of the eKYC platform to make it production ready, as well as the drought solution also. We had to push it in that space also, using another Open G2P. We're using Open G2P, which is another digital public good, which we leveraged on to build a solution for the drought. So those are that's the journey we've had in terms of building and establishing these various blocks. I think as of today, I can safely say we have over 300 electronic government services that are being offered online. We have a very interesting platform, which we call the GSB. In short, it is the Government Service Bus, which is a big project that the government invested in to automate the various electronic services. On that platform, today as a Zambian, I'm able to pay for my land. I can acquire land online. The entire process of land acquisition, I can do it from the comfort of my home. On that same platform, I can pay. You can do a company registration using that same platform on the same portal. We can do driving licenses. You can pay for vehicle registration. You can do all those things. You can pay for the various environmental assessments that are required. And just now the team is working on where we are about to launch the mining, how you can do various licenses in the mining. In terms of tourism, all the applicable licenses in terms of tourism, they are all on board on that same platform. So you will see that there's a lot in terms of digitization that the country has already been doing. But then how then we need to make it even more open and stretch this technology even further is where the DPI comes into play. Because some of the solutions which were already existing were siloed, Now with the DPI approach, we are saying, can we leverage on having national data registers where data can be collected once and we simply plug into the various registers to verify that data using a data exchange platform which the government already has invested in. So all those things are the things that we are looking at and saying, can we build on these blocks which are very key in terms of giving us what we need. So identity is key, which is what we are going, which I talked about in terms of the INRIS. And then in terms of payments, on the same GSB, we have a payment gateway there. And this payment gateway, we use it predominantly. It has been used for people making payments to government, so which is like P2G, which is people to government payments. However, with the DPI thinking now, we are saying, why use it only one way? We know that today government is dispensing a lot of payments to this. It also makes a lot of payments to the citizens, which is the G2P payments. Why not leverage the same gateway, expand it, or have a solution which can then be used to facilitate even these kind of solutions, instead of having each solution have its own payment gateway. So we are looking at all that and trying to leverage on shared infrastructure, which can then be can help to lower the operational cost or even the cost of running some of these programs, because it is quite costly for one ministry to go and engage a vendor to do this solution and then only use it maybe periodically. Our thinking is, if the solution can be used by other players who are all in the same space, why not leverage that common rail to be able to give it even more value and relevance than only use it on a seasonal kind of basis. We have learned quite a lot in terms of our previous implementations. I think I have been offering solutions now for 20 years in the digital space. So I speak based on some of my experiences. And the government, if I speak on the government side, looking at the government implementations, you will find that there's been a lot of challenges when it comes to sustainability of some of these solutions, which government has invested in. I say so in that you find solutions which were being bought at certain times were very much proprietary, to the extent that it was a black box. And you have this vendor who will lock you in, and whatever change you want to make, you need the vendor to authorize it or to accept it. So you are basically dancing to the tune of the vendor, which has really cost us quite a lot, because you find, because of the high investment which has been made, you find the shift becomes very difficult to attain. And in the end, you have maybe so many small systems being developed, just trying to resolve a single problem. With the DPI, what we see there is we're talking about open standards. So as long as somebody has built according to open standards, we will be able to manage the aspect of vendor locking. And then which brings in issues of competition also, because not only are you locked with this vendor, if that vendor goes under, the solution can still be sustained because it's built on open technology. So sustainability is key for us as a government. And then also the fact that you are free to go to other competitors. That competition helps to lower the cost. Because if you're just dealing with one player, what they tell you is what it is. You cannot compare with other people, because even if the other people tell you they are cheaper, their solution will not be able to plug in. So interoperability is something which is very key for us. So we've been talking about interoperability, and we want to see that in the actually being applied and being lived in our space. So when we look at DPI, you find that issues of interoperability and data sharing, and also the issues of inclusion and the issues of scale. We know that investments are quite expensive, and therefore we want to be able to have those investments which we can implement and yet be able to be so inclusive in their nature, which is what DPI gives us. We do this correctly, we'll be able to have social inclusion as opposed to having solutions which are only catering to a select group, and which is what most of the MIS solutions which were being deployed earlier on were basically focusing on. So they were not looking at how would this solution bring about inclusion, but with DPI it's outward facing. So more or less like citizen-centric in that it's drawing in even those who were earlier on excluded. I say so if you look at some of the technology, the solutions we are looking at, we are pushing that whatever solution which we are bringing in, for it to be recognized that it is actually a DPI, it should be able to operate in multi-mode. It's not just one way of doing things, but it should have other ways which should encourage greater participation by the larger community of the country, especially that our society is not one which is only one class. There are various classes in our society, and therefore we need to be able to cater for the various classes that exist, or the client base that we have as government, and to bring about this fast inclusion. And going forward also, the issues of, I did mention earlier on, the issues of cost in terms of leveraging some of the open source or digital public goods is something which we are really taking seriously as a country, because we don't want digitization to be seen as a cost, but we want to use it as an enabler and do implementation at a speed which is very much acceptable and at a reasonable cost to bring service delivery to the citizens. But last but not the least, also there has been the issue of also just getting our private players or industry, local industry, to participate in the DPI implementation of the country. Many are the times where you'll find there has been very little participation by the local digital players in terms of how to innovate on what is existing. Most of the time you find they would have to innovate from scratch. But with this, what we're telling them is that government may not be able to innovate at their speed, but what we'll be able to give them is a base upon which they can then have their own creativity and innovative ideas built upon, and they are also monetize them, and even then create a vibrant digital ecosystem for the country, as well as create employment for the youths, which is something which our government is so much passionate about. So we see that DPI offers such avenues for us to really make digitization or the digital ecosystem of the country one which is thriving, and they also enable us to attain our vision of making Zambia a middle income country by the year 2030. For the Zambian ecosystem, we know that the government is very key to make this happen. Government is very key in terms of driving the DPI, and to this effect, we are happy. I think we are privileged as a country in terms of how our setup is. Like I earlier indicated that the division where I come from is sitting in the office of the president. So, and the president has been very much passionate about digitization. And so beyond just digitization, when it comes to DPI, Zambia is actually, we signed up and we are part of the 50 in 5 campaign. So that goes to show you that top leadership of the country is very key in supporting this kind of an initiative. And then also the private player, the local private players are also very key for us, because while digitization is happening, their participation is required for this thing to be domesticated. We do believe in the issues of sovereignty when it comes to some of these solutions. So if the local industry embraces DPI, then we are guaranteed that that will be able to come into the space. The issues of civil society is we can never run away from civil society participation. Remember, they are the ones who are on the ground with some of these. They are able to speak for some of the marginalized groups, and they are able to also point out some of the shortfalls that may have been overlooked at the expense of maybe trying to deliver solutions at a certain speed. So we need them to be able to take this word to the masses and to also just explain it and break it down further to the people so that then they understand what is being done. You know, I don't know how it is with other places, but in Africa, the issues of trust are very key. If we can't get that, if people don't believe something, or if misinformation goes out first, it's very difficult to correct the narrative once wrong words have gone out. So we need these digital champions to be able to go down, provide awareness, give literacy to people, and just to ensure that this wave is carried forward. We can never run away from the legal aspect. We recently had our Data Protection Act signed into law. So whatever we are doing, we still have to recognize, we need to ensure that what we are doing is in tandem with the provisions of the laws of the land. So we need to ensure that our implementation is in line with the laws. So even that involvement of the Data Protection Commission's office is very key for us, so that then he's able to support our drive, so that office does not end up being the stumbling block, where when we want to do certain things, they are blocking it on account that it is breaking, it is going against against the law. But we want our implementation, we want them to be able to give guidance, even as the DPI implementation is ongoing. Last but not the least, other regulators. We have a number of regulators, whether it's the central bank when it comes to payments, the telecoms in terms of communication. In Zambia, we have what is called ZICTA, which is Zambia Electronics Communication Technology Authority. They also have a very key and a powerful voice that we need them to be on, even as we do this, because they are the ones who help us to interface even with our various mobile network operators, who then create the backbone upon which our infrastructure in terms of communication is being relayed to the various parts of the country. So when we look at that, you see that this industry is in all these areas, we need to have champions who will then be able to really ensure that when they are having their own engagements or their various AGMs, DPI is espoused to them, and people start knowing what potential DPI will be able to bring to our space. So that's the way I see the champions really playing a vital role in terms of how we move this thing forward. We have already identified about 7 million records that we would like to have loaded on the eKYC platform. And so you see that these 7 million records will be records which will be used by, like what I was saying right now, they'll be used to properly identify the people who will get some benefits from the social sector, from the social protection. And then on the health records, we are still trying to clean up the data. I think our colleagues from the numbers they gave us, we are talking about already on the electronic health records, we have almost 9 million records which they already have there. So it's a matter of now cleaning up these numbers, putting them together and seeing if there are any duplicates. We clear out those numbers, and then thereafter we'll have a good picture. of how we can then be able to deal with some of these so-called ghost workers or ghost beneficiaries or ghost farmers. We are already being quoted even right now. We have a program, a government support program for agriculture, which even they were looking at leveraging on this platform. So they are only starting now. So once this is running, even as they are disbasing, it is hopeful that they will also at one time leverage on the eKYC platform to be able to weed out any ghost farmers that may have been benefiting from the inputs that government is providing. So I think in terms of seeing the real impact, give us maybe up to December, we will be able to have the use cases firing up and all the numbers, and we'll be able to show what was where the waste was coming in previously, what was being spent previously, and how now that we're using this tool, it's able to scale down on the numbers. Okay, yeah, so I think my advice to anyone who wants to do DPI, I think would be work with what you have. I think it is always key that you work with what you have, as well as deal with a real problem. The value can only be seen if what you are doing in your space or in your implementation is answering to a problem, because this is when people will appreciate it, and that's when the support can be gotten. That is one. Number two is, as much as possible, rally cooperation. I think DPI is not a standalone, it's not a one-man show. There is need to have greater participation and buy-in. Without the buy-in or collaboration, you'll find it very difficult to implement, because the people whom you are supposed to be saving, you may find that they are the people that will be fighting you. So there has to be that collaboration, and then also there is need to respect the mandates of the various players in your space. Know what you are tasked to do or what you have been mandated to do, and also respect the authority that has been vested in the other players that are required, that are in the DPI space, whatever you are trying to implement. Because failure to which creates friction, and this friction can actually be something which delays your implementation. So that issue of respecting the other people's mandates or their turf is very key, so that then there is a effective collaboration and support by all the players. And last but not the least, remember why you are doing this thing. Always keep the citizens in the picture. So whatever you are doing, let it be done with the understanding that the citizen is key, or is king if you want, so that your solutions are solutions that are making their lives better than it was being done before. Otherwise, it will be a lab kind of implementation. And also issues of the law. I think we've seen how solutions have been stopped on account of breaking the law. Leverage on the expertise of others that have done it. There's no need for us to make the same mistakes which have already been done. So knowledge sharing is very key. There are other people who have done certain implementations better than us, and we are learning from them, and we see how we adapt. But even as you are learning from others, always customize it to your own experience. Because if you just get it as was done in another country to come and implement it, you may find that the contexts are different. So it may bring a lot of frustration, or you may think you have failed, but actually your failure was your inability to customize. So those are some of the lessons that we are learning. And also, this can be a very taxing journey. So be prepared in that not everybody will see it the way you are seeing it. So others will oppose you. So you should be able to, you should know that not everybody will buy it. You should be willing to go forward, even when there are others who are opposing to you. Eventually, when they see the benefit, we believe they will come. As the saying goes, when you build it, they will come. So that's the way I would look at it. Thank you.